Hello, my name is Gerdien de Vries. Welcome to this lecture on public responses to the heat transition. The goal of this video is to show you the relevance of public responses and perceptions when learning about the heat transition. We will also look at how these perceptions can impact the heat transition, and it's necessary to reflect on these public responses in a MOOC about heat transition because it affects the adoption of low-carbon technologies. However, this part gets little attention up till now. A recent literature review on thermal energy communities showed that less than 10% of the studies identified focused on behavioral and institutional factors, compared to most of the studies that focused on technical aspects, 55%, and economic aspects, 16%. Heat transition is more than technology, money, regulations or laws. It is about change and the perceptions and emotions, expectations, trust, values and experiences of the people involved. You can design the most innovative technology and get all the funding to build it, but it has no value if people do not use your technological innovation. So, understanding people, their perceptions and the effects of their perceptions on their behavior are essential. Behavioral insights can help to connect humans and technology. For example, you might notice that some protest against decarbonizing the heating and cooling system and others embrace it. Why do they differ? Is that because some people do not like the technology? Or they do not like the industry behind it? Or don't they want the government forcing them to change their way of heating? Or are they only interested in the cheapest way to heat or cool their house? Knowing these processes behind the interaction between humans and technology is vital for the technology's implementation. We know from scientific research, for example, that the implementation process of low-carbon technologies is an important influence on public responses. If people feel manipulated by developers to adopt or buy a technology because they only publicly report on the benefits and not the risks of it, they might oppose it. While the developers, with good intentions, might assume that they win over hearts when showing how environmentally friendly their technology is. People might see this as greenwashing, as they are not informed about any potential downsides. As a result, they might respond negatively. We call this a boomerang effect. Another example is if residents feel that the developers and the government have already decided to drill for heat in their area before giving them any voice. They might feel they are being mistreated during the process and might not want to support the project. So these examples indicate that psychological factors, such as perceptions and expectations and trust, are essential when adopting alternative heating and cooling technology. Another important perception I would like to mention here is the perceived comfort of heating and cooling. Engineers can design and construct buildings and housings with technologically perfect systems, including intelligent meters that can automatically regulate these systems. However, if the people living or working in those buildings are uncomfortable, they can work around these systems. An example is a teacher that opens a window for fresh air in a building that is technically optimal, heated or cooled when the windows are closed. Opening windows is the opposite of what is technically optimal for the building, but is actually optimal for the people using it. As an engineer, you must realize these psychological processes when designing and implementing alternative heating and cooling systems to increase effective and efficient use. Public responses and perceptions are not only shaped by how developers communicate or design sustainable technology. Perceptions are also largely shaped by how the media portray such technologies. A recent study reports how two prominent national newspapers in Indonesia cover geothermal energy. Indonesia is a country with large geothermal potential due to its volcanic geology. The media analysis of over 300 articles reveals an overall positive tone in the newspaper articles, especially regarding the technology's energy security and economic potential. The primary source is the national government. Possible adverse effects of geothermal energy or technology are covered less often, particularly those related to social issues at the local level. So what do you think? Would this positive emphasis on the national and general benefits of geothermal energy in the media, with a neglect for social issues on the local level, lead to a positive public response toward geothermal energy in Indonesia? Or do you think a boomerang effect could occur because people feel the risks are not shared? These are considerations you need to consider when implementing new technologies. There is another psychological factor that I want to bring up here. The difficulty residents of buildings might perceive when changing their heating and cooling habits inside a building. I call this the hassle factor. The picture on the slide shows the environmental impact and the difficulty of heating or cooling less, but you can imagine that changing systems is also not easy. People are, for example, used to using gas to heat their houses and a thermostat to regulate it. When people are required to adopt a new system, they might perceive a lot of hassle. They need to find out what technology fits their home, who can install it, where to find the subsidy, discuss it with the neighbors when it has a visual or audible impact, and finally get it installed. And these perceptions of hassle can function as micro-stressors and lead to a delay or resistance to adopting a new technology. Reflect on this yourself. Have you ever renovated something in your house? Not entirely stress-free, right? Developers can help reduce hassle, but it still has a significant psychological barrier. To conclude, psychological factors, such as perceptions, play a massive role in public responses to heat transition. We have no crystal ball and cannot predict how people will respond to future developments. However, what we can do is start measuring public responses in the early stage of the development or the implementation of new technologies, even when new technology is not on the market yet. And still, we need to acknowledge that perceptions change, they conflict, and they can be very personal. Until we know more, we can only make assumptions about how people respond to heat transition. As a final recap, we have learned how the heat transition is also affected by social aspects, where the public perception can limit the transition. And we have also discussed how there are psychological barriers towards new technologies and how we have no way to predict the future reactions to those and any transitions. Even if we have no certainties about public responses to heat transition, I hope this video increased your awareness that this transition is about more than technology, money and regulations.